Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Feasting on the Word. I am D.G. Hamblin. I want to talk to you about a dream I had once. I've only had, I think, two my entire life, which I felt had any meaning or significance. Typically, the dreams I have are a bunch of nonsense. But there have been two, and the first one of those came to me when I was 7 years old. And it was a dream about a snake. And I believe that it had a lot of significance. And I want to tell you about it. But first, let's talk a little bit about snakes, or serpents as they are in the scriptures. The first instance we see of a snake or a serpent is Genesis chapter 3. And I'm sure that you are familiar with the story. Eve is beguiled, tempted by Satan in the form of a serpent in the Garden of Eden, and convinces her to partake of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the forbidden fruit. And she does so. Later, in Numbers, when Moses and the Israelites are in the desert, the Lord sends venomous serpents to bite the people, and they begin to die. And the Lord tells Moses to take and make a brass or brazen serpent, to put it on a pole and to lift it up so the people can see it. And all they will have to do is look to that brass serpent on the pole, and they will live. And for many, it was way too simple, and they refused to look, and they died. Those who looked lived. That serpent represented Jesus Christ lifted up on the cross. As we can read in John chapter 3, we're all familiar with 3:16, but let's go back and start at verse 14. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting. In this verse, whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have eternal life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Christ was represented by this brass serpent, which was then taken and put into the temple, as we later, or the tabernacle, and then the temple, as we later read. But in the Book of Mormon, Nephi, the son of Helaman, he expounds on this a little bit. And it's in chapter 8, and it's verses 14 and 15. It says, Yea, did he not bear record, speaking about Moses, did he not bear record that the Son of God should come? And as he lifted up the brazen serpent in the wilderness, even so shall he, talking about Christ, be lifted up who should come. And as many as should look upon that serpent should live. That serpent meaning Christ. Even so, as many as should look upon the Son of Man with faith, having a contrite spirit, might live, even unto that life which is eternal. So, kind of a tale of two serpents there. One representing Satan, he who was cast down, a fallen angel cast down to earth, and the other representing Christ, kind of the two opposing forces. Some other denominations make fun of us or ridicule us or whatnot for believing that Satan and Christ are brothers, but in fact, we believe more than that, right? We believe that we are all brothers and sisters, that Jesus Christ is our brother, as is our accuser, our tempter, Satan. And so that brings me to the dream that I had when I was 7. I have 4 sisters. I have 2 older sisters, and I have 2 who are younger than I am. And when I was 7, I had this very clear dream. We were raised on a small farm, and at the back of our yard was an opening in the fence which led into the pasture. We had a gate there, but there was also a cattle guard. And it was kind of fun to play on or around for little kids. And in this dream I had, my sisters, my younger sisters, were playing at this cattle guard, or on it, or near it. And I could see them, and I was not very far away, maybe 60 feet, 70 feet away. And as I was watching them, then I could see a snake, a venomous snake. And it was trying to get to them. And I knew that it was my responsibility to keep this snake from harming my sisters. And so I began doing all that I could, being 7 years old, to keep this venomous snake away from them. I woke up before the dream ended. And even though I was very young, I knew what that dream meant. I knew that it meant that Satan would try very hard to get my sisters in his grasp. And I knew that it was my responsibility to keep him away and to protect them. And so when I was young, I've always remembered the dream. When I was young, I kept that in my mind a good bit, and I did what I could to keep their testimony strong. When I could drive, I would take them to youth activities, or sometimes take them to just do good, wholesome things rather than hanging out with people they shouldn't. How successful was I? Now, as adults, they make their own decisions. I can't make those decisions for them. And neither one of them no longer have anything to do with the church or with the gospel. Now, in my mind, I know that that is not my fault. I didn't make the decisions for them. But in my heart, I cannot help but feel that in some way I failed. I also can't help but think that perhaps had I not had my own prodigal journey, that maybe I would have been more in tune with things I could have done. The reality, though, is that it may not have had any effect. But here's what I'm trying to get to. I knew that I had a responsibility, and I think that responsibility applies not only to those two sisters, but perhaps to all of our brothers and sisters, those who are spiritually our brothers and sisters in a heavenly sense. And that we have a responsibility to share the gospel, to testify of Jesus Christ, and of the truthfulness of the plan of salvation. There are times when I'm reading the scriptures and I read something like the verses we have there in Helaman, or in John, or the story of the Garden of Eden, or of the Israelites being bitten by fiery flying serpents as it describes them. And I'm reminded of my dream and of my responsibility. What are you doing to share the gospel with other people? What are you doing to protect our sisters and our brothers from that old serpent, from Satan, who would have them in his grasp. And once he gets them, it is hard to get him to let them go. Just some food for thought. I love y'all. Thanks for listening. I'll see you again soon.